evaං me sutaං ekaං samayaං bhagavā සාවන්තියං විහෙරති 제තවනේ අනාථපිණ්ඩිකංස ආරාමේ අතකෝ අඤ්ඤතරා දේවතා අබින්කන්තාය රන්තියා අබින්කන්ත වන්නා කේවල කම්පං 제තවනං ඕබාසෙන්වා යේන භගවාතේනුපසංකමී උපසංකමින්වා භගවන්තං අභිවාදෙන්වා ඒකමන්තං අන්තාසී ඒකමන්තං තිතාකෝසා දේවතා භගවන්තං ගාතාය අංජබාසී බහුදේවා මනුන්සාච මංගලානි අචින්තයොං ආකංකමානා සොන්තානං බ්‍රෝහි මංගලමුන්තමං අසේවනාච බාලානං පණ්ඩිතානංච සේවනා පූජාච පූජනීයානං ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං අතිරූපදේශවාසෝච පුම්බීජ කත පුඤ්ඤතා අන්ත සම්මා පනිදිච ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං බාහු සංචංච සිම්පංච විනයෝච සුසිංකිතෝ සුභාසිතාච යාවාචා ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං මාතා පිතු උපට්ඨානං පුන්තදාරංස සංඝෝ අනාකුලාච කම්මන්තා ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං දානංච ධම්මචරියාච ඥාතකානංච සංඝෝ අනවංජානි කම්මානි ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං ආරති විරති පාපා මංජපානාච සංයමෝ අප්පමාදෝච ධම්මේසු ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං ගාරවෝච නිවාතෝච සන්තුන්තිච කතං යුතා කාලේන ධම්ම සවනං ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං කන්තිච සෝව චන්සතා සමනානංච දන්සනං කාලේන ධම්ම සාකච්ඡා ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං තපෝච බ්‍රහ්මචරියංච අරිය සංචාන දන්සනං නිබ්බාන සංචිකිරියාච ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං පුන්තංස ලෝක ධම්මී චින්තං යන්සන කම්පති අසෝකං විරජං කේමං ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං ඒතාදිසානි කන්වාන සම්බන්තමපරාජිතා සම්බන්ත සොන්තිං ගච්ඡන්තිතං තේසං මංගල මුත්තමන්ති ඒතේන සංච වංජේන හෝතු තේ ජය මංගලං ඒතේන සංච වංජේන හෝතු තේ ජය මංගලං ඒතේන සංච වංජේන හෝතු තේ ජය මංගලං කරණීය මන්ත කුසලේන යන්තං සන්තං පදං අபிසමිච්ඡ සක්ඛෝජුච සුජුච සුවචෝ චංස මුදෝ අනතිමානි සන්තුන්සකෝච සුභරෝච අම්පකින්චෝච සල්ලහුකවුන්ති සන්තින්ද්‍රියෝච නිපකෝච අම්පගම්බෝ කුලේසු අනුනුගින්දෝ නච කුන්දං සමාචරේ කිංචි යේන විඤ්ඤූ පරේ උපවදෙය්‍යං සුඛිනෝ වාකේමිනෝ හන්තු සම්බේ සන්තා භවන්තු සුඛිතන්තා ඒකේචිපාන භූතන්ති තසවාතාවරාවා අනවසේසා දීඝාවායේ මහන්තාවා මංජිමාරංසකානුකතුලා දිත්ථාවායේව අන්දින්තා යේච දුරේ වසන්ති අවිදුරේ භූතාවා සම්භවේසීවා සම්බේ සන්තා භවන්තු සුඛිතන්තා නපරෝ පරං නිකුම්බේත ඥාති මඤ්ඤේත කන්ත චිනං කංචී ව්‍යාරෝසනා පටිග සංඥා ඥාඤ්ඤ මඤ්ඤංස දුක්ඛමිච්ඡේය මාතා යතානියං පුන්තං ආයුසා ඒක පුන්ත මනුරංකේ ඒවම්පි සම්බභූතේසු මාන සංභාවයේ අපරිමාණං මෙන්තංච සම්බලෝකස්මින් මාන සංභාවයේ අපරිමාණ උන්දං අදෝච තිරියංච අසංභාදං අවේරං අසපත්තං තින්ඨං චරං නිසින්නෝවා සයානෝවායාවතන්ස විගතමින්දෝ ඊතං සතින් අදින්ඨේය බ්‍රහ්මමේතං විහාරං ඉදමාහෝ දින්ඨින්ච අනුපගම්ම සීලවා දන්සනේන සම්පන්නෝ කාමේසු විනය්‍යගේදං නහි ජාතු ගම්බසේයං පුනරේති. එවං මේ සුතං ඒකං සමයං භගවා සාවන්තියං විහරති ජේතවනේ අනාථ පින්ඩිකංස ආරාමේ අතකෝ අඤ්ඤතරා දේවතා අභික්ඛන්තාය රන්තියා අභික්ඛන්තවන්නා කේවල කම්පං ජේතවනං ඕවාසෙන්වා යේන භගවාතේනුපසංකමී උපසංකමින්වා භගවන්තං අභිවාදෙන්වා ඒකමන්තං අන්තාසී ඒකමන්තං පිතාකෝසා දේවතා භගවන්තං ගාතාය අංජබාසී බහුදේවා මනුන්සාච මංගලානි අචින්තයොං ආකංකමානා සොන්තානං බ්‍රෝහි මංගලමුන්තමං අසේවනාච බාලානං පණ්ඩිතානංච සේවනා පූජාච පූජනීයානං ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං
Namo Buddhaya, and good morning, brothers and sisters in the Dharma. Suki Hontu, wishing everyone well and happy. So glad that we can come together again for another Sunday Puja service online. Hope you can also share this FB link with your family and friends so that they too can benefit themselves by participating in this Buddha Puja and listening to the Dharma. Brothers and sisters in the Dharma, let us prepare ourselves for this Buddha Puja by making ourselves comfortable, relaxing our mind and our body. I shall now hand over to our Puja leader this morning, Sister Anne Siu.
Thank you, Brajim. Good morning, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Let us begin with our Sunday Buddha Puja by making offerings to the Buddha. If you have prepared the offerings at home, you may also light your candles or oil lamps and make the offerings to the Buddha. Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, let us put our palms together in Anjali position and contemplate mindfully. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, let us pay homage to the Triple Gem. Buddhang pujemi, Dhammang pujemi, Sanghang pujemi. Let us together take refuge in the Triple Gem and observe the 5 precepts. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. कामेषु मिच्छाचारा वैरमणि सिक्खापदं समादियामि मुस्सवादा वैरमणि सिक्खापदं समादियामि सुरामेरय मज्जपमादत्थाना वैरमणि सिक्खापदं समादियामि इमानि पञ्च सिक्खापदानि समादियामि इमानि पञ्च सिक्खापदानि समादियामि इमानि पञ्च सिक्खापदानि समादियामि साधु 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 Itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho Vichacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu Anuttaro purisa dhamma sarati Sattha deva manussanang buddho bhagavati Swakacho bhagavata dhammo sanditiko akaliko ehipassiko oppanayiko pacchattam veditabbo vinyuhiti Supatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Ujupatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Nyayapatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Samicipatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Yadidang chattari purisa yugani atta purisa pukkala Esa bhagavato savaka sangho Ahuneyo pahuneyo dakkineyo anjali karaniyo Anuttarang punyaketang lokasati Vandami cetiyang sabbang sabbatane supatititang Saririkadacu mahabodhi Buddha rupang sakalang sada Yasamule nisinno vasabbari vijayang aka Pato sabbanyutang satta Vande tang bodhipadapang Ime ete mahabodhi lokanattena pujita Ahampite namassami Bodhi Raja Namattute Ganasarapaditena Dipena Tamadansina Tilokadipang Sambuddhang Pujayami Tamonudang Ganda Sambara Yuttena Dupenahang Sugandina Pujaye Pujaniyang Tang Puja Bhajana Muttamang Vannaganda Gunopetang Etang Kusuma Santating Pujayami Munindassa Siripada Saruruhe Pujimi Buddhang Kusumena Nena Punyena Mittena Chahottumokang Puppang Milayati Yata Idang Me Kayo Tata Yati Vinassa Bhavang Adivasettu no bhante paniyang parikapitang anukampang upadaya patiganhatu muttamang Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang Acayang kamame bante puripanya tathagata Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang Acayang kamame dhamma sanditika akalika Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang Acayang kamame sangha supatipanna anuttara Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu
Namo Buddhaya, brothers and sisters in the Dharma, and good morning. This morning, we are very pleased to have Brother Ananda Fong to be with us in our Sunday Puja. And we have invited Brother Ananda Fong to give a Dharma talk this morning. This morning, Dharma talk is dedicated to our late Mrs. Wang, who just passed away 2 days ago. Mrs. Wang passing away is a loss to Subang Jaya Buddhist Association and to the Buddhist community. She had been a very strong pillar of Subang Jaya Buddhist Association, having been the head of one of the most important functions of SJPA, that is the Dharma education for our younger generation, the Sunday Dharma school children. SJPA started its activities in August 1989, and Mrs. Wang had been the principal of our Sunday Dharma school since 1990 and have been instrumental in providing the leadership, planning, training, and guidance, and managing a strong and dedicated and committed team of Sunday Dharma school teachers of 40 over to 50 over dedicated teachers at various times. And over the years, since 1990, planted the seeds of the Dharma in thousands of Sunday Dharma school children, inculcating all the Buddhist values of loving kindness, compassion, gratitude, and forgiveness, which is a strong foundation for our Sunday Dharma school children for a successful life. Mrs. Wang had contributed tremendously to Subang Jaya Buddhist Association and also to the Buddhist community. As a mark of respect and also in honor of Mrs. Wang, let us have 1 minute of silence before we start the Dharma talk. Let's close our eyes and observe 1 minute of silence. May Mrs. Wang have a good rebirth and continue to walk the path of the Dharma until her attainment of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Brothers and sisters in the Dharma, please allow me to introduce Brother Ananda Fong. Brother Ananda Fong was a student, facilitator, and deputy principal at the Buddhist Institute Sunday Dharma School at Buddhist Mahavihara, Kuala Lumpur. He was a student of the late Venerable K.Sri Dhammananda. He was the president of Banda Utama Buddhist Society and principal of the Sunday Dharma School. He was also the first honorary secretary general of the Theravada Buddhist Council of Malaysia, or TBCM, for 2 terms. TBCM was registered and started operation in 2012, and Brother Ananda Fong, together with a few others, were asked by Venerable Sarankara and also Brother Dan Hosun to help form the TBCM to unite the various Theravada organizations and represent the Theravada Buddhist community at the national level, sharing resources and experience to propagate the Buddha Dharma and promotion of the Buddhist way of life. Brother Ananda Fong was instrumental in the early success of TBCM, especially the numerous online Dharma contents in the TBCM Facebook that benefit thousands and thousands of followers. Brother Ananda Fong was appointed the director of Pustaka Nalanda in 2011 with the main library at Sri Setang and the branch libraries in Kuala Lumpur, Johor Bahru, and Sungai Petani. He actively promotes reading the Nikayas and facilitates Dharma courses and sharings regularly in Malaysia. Brothers and sisters in the Dharma, if you have any questions pertaining to this talk, please type your questions in the comment section. We shall then invite Brother Ananda Fong to answer your questions after the talk. If you are not able to answer all questions due to time constraint, we ask for your forgiveness and understanding. We are now pleased to invite Brother Ananda Fong to share the Dharma talk with us with the title, The Buddha's Teaching, Fake or Scriptural. Brother Ananda Fong, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Namo Buddhaya to all. Good morning, Brother Jim. Thank you for the kind introduction. Just to add, Brother Jim and myself were the early EXCO members of TBCM. So together we worked hand in hand to further the cause of national Buddhism in Malaysia. And with regard to Mrs. Wang, my condolences to the SJW community. A great loss to the Buddhist community in Malaysia in general. I had the pleasure of working with Sister Wang whenever she would give me a call, especially in the training of the Sunday Dharma school teachers, the new batches and so on. So I can see her great contribution and tenacity and determination in making sure the Dharma education at the Sunday school level is up to notch. And the best way in which the Buddhist community can actually honor her is to actually continue and bring to higher levels the contribution of the Sunday Dharma school, since it was her passion. And of course, the implications of that is that the Buddhist community should take heart to learn the Buddha Dhamma and to practice it well. That is the highest honor we can share and share with the community and to honor Mrs. Wang. I shall continue with this morning sharing. Continue with the short puja. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. This particular sharing this morning has to start with some very, very basics, and then we move on to the aspects of fake Buddhism. But first of all, we need to know who is the Buddha. And the best answer is actually provided by the Buddha himself, as recorded in the Arya Pariyesana Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya Sutta number 26. So not long after the Bodhisattva got enlightened and became the Sama Sambuddha, as we know it, Buddha Gautama. He was on his way from Gaya, Buddha Gaya, to the Deer Park. And he came across this Ajivika called Upaka, who noticed that he had a different complexion, appearance, and he decided to ask the Buddha some questions. Who is your teacher? Whose teaching do you profess? And the Buddha replied, I have no teacher. No one like me exists in all the world, for I am the peerless teacher, the Arahat. I alone am supremely enlightened, quenching all defilements. Nibbana's calm have I attained. I go to the city of Kasi, or Benares, or today it's called Varanasi, to set in motion the wheel of Dharma. In a world where blindness reigns, I shall beat the deathless drum. This particular excerpt from this Arya Pariyesana Sutta is important because of the underlying portions I put in the center. I have no teacher, the Buddha declared. This clearly answers, the Buddha answers allegations, even in the 21st century, even today, where they say that the Buddha, is a messenger of God because God whispered into his ear some teachings. And other people who say that the Buddha was a Hindu and took ideas from the local community, massaged it, added some of his own take, and reintroduced as a new teaching. But here, the Buddha clearly dispels all those wrong notions by saying, I have no teacher. That means he did not take from anybody else. He did not hear from anybody. And he continues, one like me does not exist in all the world. So even if they are gods and so on, they do not understand the Dhamma. And the Buddha further claims, I alone am supremely enlightened, quenching all defilements, Nibbana's calm have I attained. So this is one of the suttas where the Buddha dispelled this erroneous rambling in society, which we should know well and be able to defend easily by quoting from the Buddha himself. And back to this, in many sharings, I frequently share this particular quote from the Vinaya Pitaka, the Mahavagga in the Vinaya Pitaka, where the Buddha sends off the first 60 arahats. And here, the Buddha clearly says the purpose of why he's teaching. What is the purpose of this Dhamma that he's sharing with the rest of humanity? And the Buddha says, go monks on tour for the benefit of the common folk, the happiness of the common folk, out of compassion for the world, the welfare, the benefit, the happiness of the gods and human beings. So clearly, this Dhamma that the Buddha has been sharing for 45 years is for our benefit, for our happiness, for our welfare. And why do the monastics and Dhamma sharers in the world over the centuries share? It is out of compassion for the world. So we should bear that in mind. You will notice that the earlier two slides, I have often mentioned the source, which is right at the bottom or right at the top of the screen. Here, right at the bottom of the screen, there's a red arrow pointing at the name of this lecture given by the Buddha. The lecture is called Itta. Sutta means discourse or lecture. So Itta Sutta, translation, what is welcome or what is desirable. And the number, the alpha and number that follows that, shows the location in the Tipitaka. In this case, capital A, capital N is Anguttara Nikaya, Book of 5, Sutta number 43. So with this bit of information, Itta Sutta and AN 5.43, you put it into your favorite search engine, you will be able to access this particular lecture or sutta given by the Buddha as recorded in the Tipitaka. It is that easy for you to read the whole sutta. And I encourage you to avail yourself with all these sources. Here, I provide an extract. What is desirable? And the Buddha says, long life, beauty, happiness, fame, and rebirth in heaven. Of these 5 things, House Lord, I do not teach that they are to be obtained through prayer, nor through wishing. If one could obtain them through prayer or through wishing, who would not obtain them? And Buddha continues, for a noble disciple, house law, who wishes to have rebirth in heaven and so on, it is not proper that he should pray for rebirth in heaven, long life, fame, and so on. He should rather follow a way of life that is conducive to long life, fame, health, rebirth in heaven, and so on. So by following such a path, he will obtain what he wants. In this case, rebirth in heaven, long life, and so on. So we have to do something about it. Now, why am I sharing this particular excerpt from this Ita Sutta? Very often in the lay community, the Buddhist community, one is often asked to pray and pray hard. But unfortunately, not asking people to practice the Dharma. Here, the Buddha clearly says prayer alone is not enough. Most important is that we must follow a way of life. So we have to practice it in our lives, not just go to temple and pray. Here are some excerpts from the Dhammapada. Dhammapada is a collection of quotes from the Buddha found in the Khuddaka Nikaya, which is in the Tipitaka. And this particular verse, 117, says, should a person commit evil, let him not do it again and again. Let him not find pleasure therein, for painful is the accumulation of evil. Should a person do good, let him do it again and again. Let him find pleasure therein, for blissful is the accumulation of good. So clearly, these two verses are in contrast. That the Buddha advises one to not commit evil again and again, but to do good again and again. And again, as I mentioned, the red arrow, the pointing the source. So whenever I quote from the Buddha or from the Tipitaka, I will provide the source where you can also read for yourself in English, Chinese, and Pali, and many other languages. So practicing the Dhamma. Having abandoned bodily misconduct, verbal misconduct, misconduct of the mind, and whatever else is flawed, not having done what's not skillful, having done much that is skillful. At the breakup of the body, the sinning one reappears in heaven. So clearly, the Buddha's advice is to abandon bodily, verbal, and mental misconduct and to perform skillful things. Notice, same message, first in the Dhammapada and here in the Iti Vuttaka, another collection of suttas. And this book is found in the Khuddaka Nikaya in the Tipitaka. And how should we honor the Buddha? And these are the sayings of Maha Pajapati Gotami Theri, found in the Theri Katha, also, which is a book of sayings by the nuns found in the Khuddaka Nikaya. And she said, see the gathering of followers, putting forth effort, self-control, always with strong resolution. This is how to honor the Buddhas. So clearly, it's already been stated by the Arhat Mahapajapati Gotami Theri that the best way to honor is not just to offer light, offer water, offer flowers, but the most important, the highest honor you can put forward is to learn the Dhamma and then to put forth effort to practice the Dhamma. Now here, we have some summary of the 4 great discoveries, otherwise called the 4 Noble Truths, discovered by the Buddha underneath the poetry, and which he has been sharing for 45 years in northern India. On the left-hand side, we have the another way of presenting the 4 Noble Truths. That the first Noble Truth is that of diagnosis, the identification of the problem. To know that there is a problem, and then to acknowledge it, its characteristics, and so on. And number 2, the second Noble Truth is that of etiology. What is this cause of this problem? And number 3, a very important portion, is there a possibility of cure of this problem? They call the prognosis. If the prognosis is poor, that means there is no cure. Then we are doomed. We are stuck with the problem. But since the prognosis is good, then we move on to number 4. If there's a way to get rid of the problem, what is the cost of treatment to get rid of this problem? And this left-hand portion column is a typical list of steps used by the medical profession to cure us of our illness and so on. And on the right side column, the typical identification of the factors mentioned in the Dhamma Chakra Pavatana Sutta, the lecture, the first sermon in which the Buddha introduces the 4 Noble Truths to the 5 ascetics at Isipatana. The first Noble Truth being declaration that there is suffering or unsatisfactoriness. The Buddha uses the Pali word dukkha. Now, using the word suffering to just as a translation to the word dukkha is inadequate, because ancient languages, in this case Pali, cannot have one for one. That means one Pali word equals one English word translations. It provides a range of meanings. So suffering and even unsatisfactoriness are 2 aspects of this. There are much more. Of course, this morning it is I will not be sharing the 4 Noble Truths, because moving on to the main topic announced earlier. So the first Noble Truth talks about that the Buddha discovered that there is dukkha in all our lives. Even happiness is dukkha. Why? It is not satisfactory. And why is happiness not satisfactory? Because it doesn't last. It doesn't have the perfect qualities of true happiness. And what is this cause of dukkha? It is craving. The Pali word being tanha. Now, number 2, translation of the word tanha into craving is very important, because many translators, many articles, books, and so on, has rendered this second Noble Truth as desire. And that itself causes problem, because the Buddha in other suttas say that desire is usually rooted in wholesomeness. The wholesomeness, the intention of wanting to seek enlightenment, that itself is desire. But craving is rooted in unwholesomeness, that of greed, hatred, and delusion. Therefore, to translate tanha as desire is not appropriate. So tanha or craving has to be eliminated, so that when you eliminate the cause of suffering or unsatisfactoriness, you can obtain number 3, the end of unsatisfactoriness, the end of dukkha, which the Buddha uses the Pali term nibbana. And how do you go about it? Number 4, the Noble Eightfold Path is the way in which the treatment to enable us to get rid of tanha, craving. And this Noble Eightfold Path comprises right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Now, what is this Noble Eightfold Path? To emphasize, first of all, it is a path. A path is not something we just look at, beautiful garden, beautiful arrangement of stones for us to walk on. But a path is to bring us from where we are standing to another location. So in this case, the Noble Eightfold Path brings us, if we bother to walk on it, that means to practice it, to walk on this path to bring us to nobility. That's hence the word noble. Nobility. Being a noble person, and how does one do it? Well, we use 8-fold factors, not noble 8 path, not noble 7 path, but there are a total of 8 factors, and not just 8, but 8-fold. Why is the word fold added to the number 8? Is because all the 8 factors here interact with each other, need their synergistic reinforcement. They help each other, they come together, they work as a team to fulfill the promise of this path, to bring us nobility, to bring us to wholesomeness, to bring us to the end of dukkha, to nibbana or liberation. Again, this was a lecture given in the Dhamma Chakra Pavatana Sutta, or the first sermon. Now, here are some qualities of the Dhamma, which we earlier in the puja session, we have already recited. Here, I would like to emphasize certain qualities, important qualities that we should take note of. This list of qualities of the Dharma are found in many, many suttas where the Buddha gave. And at the bottom, I gave you one example of a source of this particular, what they call, teaching by the Buddha. Now, right into the quality, right in the center, I have the Pali word akaliko, meaning timeless, underlined. Now, the Dhamma is akaliko, it is timeless, not involved with time. So the Dhamma is not history. History is something in the past. It's not about descriptions of the future. It is timeless. So very often, the Buddha would use other terms. And in modern terms, I would use the term Dhamma is a description of the natural laws of the universe. We are all governed by it. Example of a natural law, which we are all familiar, is gravity. So has anybody heard that gravity has an expiry date, that after whatever year or after a million years, there will be no more gravity? That is a ridiculous statement in the first place. So Dhamma itself is a part of natural laws, and therefore it is timeless, much like gravity. The other term I would like to emphasize is that of ehi pasiko, often translated as come and see. Come means inviting. To see, it's not just to see as in a tourist, go around to look and see and enjoy the view, but pasiko meaning to investigate, to understand, to drill down, to go deep into its meaning, and so on. So ehi pasiko, an alternate translation, instead of come and see, is inviting investigation. So the whole of Buddhism is about invitation to investigate. Not investigate, not that the truth is out there, but the truth is in us. Okay. Now, coming to the issue of the teachings of the Buddha. Very often, with the advent of social media in whatever form, websites, Instagram, posters, in what they call Facebook, in WhatsApp, Telegram, and many other platforms or vehicles of transmitting information, we come across the fast dissemination of what we call misinformation. In this particular dictionary definition, misinformation is incorrect or misleading information. That is an important thing we have to bear in mind. And the words or things said by the Buddha have often been misinformed, okay, and been portrayed to us, at least in the articles or in posters and in one-to-one exchange of information between individuals. And now, more recently, we come across a new term called disinformation. Previously, seldom used. Usually, we come across the word misinformation. But now we have a new term called disinformation, more commonly used. And what does disinformation mean? False information deliberately or often covertly spread as by planting of rumors in order to influence public opinion or obscure the truth. So looks like I would say that from this definition, disinformation is more frequent, more abundant in social media than even misinformation, because there are a lot of bad actors deliberately sharing this with a particular intent to cast doubt, to ask questions, and so on, with bad intentions, obscuring the truth. In fact, distorting the truth, deliberately telling a lie. Of course, in quotes by the Buddha, there are often people who paraphrase. Okay, a paraphrase means a statement that says something that another person has said or written in a different way. So another way of saying it. But of course, the issue is paraphrasing is a useful tool by many article writers, Dharma speakers, and so on. Partly because they are trying to bring forward the language used in a particular local community. Say in Malaysia, we have certain ways of saying things. So we paraphrase maybe the Buddha's teaching in more of a local scene, use certain words which the local inhabitants frequently use so that the message can get across. But as in any what I call re-rendering of what the Buddha said, that means in paraphrasing, there is always a danger of lost in translation or oversimplification, which actually makes the conveying the meaning wrong. Okay, that we find it in many instances. So be careful when we want to paraphrase. And of course, in the title of today's talk, we have the term called fake, F-A-K-E. So what does it mean? In this dictionary definition, fake just means not true, real or genuine. It is counterfeit. It is a sham. Other definitions, one that is not what it purports to be. And another definition on the bottom right, to alter, manipulate it, or treat so as to give a spuriously genuine appearance. So it looks genuine, but it is counterfeit. It is a fake, in other words. And coming back to an important thing I mentioned earlier, quote. What is a quote? To repeat something written or said by another person exactly. To write and say the exact words of someone. So if you quote from Shakespeare, then you have to quote exactly. You say otherwise, it's either paraphrasing or you're putting words into Shakespeare's mouth, which is fake. So a quote is a direct repeat of what the person said. Now, coming to the topic of this morning's sharing, earlier I already shared some of the introductions as to what the Buddha is about, who is the Buddha, what his teachings are about in brief. Here, I go to the issue about fake representation of the Buddha's teachings, or somebody trying to present it. And in this case, some people create posters using the Buddha image. And when people look at the poster with the Buddha image, we assume that whatever words, which is a common human reaction, we assume that whatever words in the poster are that of the Buddha. Let me show you. Now, in this case, there's a Buddha Rupa there, but the problem is, as the red arrow points, it is not from the Buddha. It is actually a Chinese proverb. So what has the Chinese proverb in this poster to do with the Buddha image also in the same poster? That confuses. But if someone were to look at this poster and miss the term Chinese proverb right at the bottom, you might think that whatever text written above is from the Buddha. That is an assumption. At the bottom, we have another poster with a Buddha Rupa, and suddenly the poster talks about God, capital G-O-D. So what has God to do with the Buddha? Capital G-O-D in the modern context, in the 21st century, in the English-speaking world, points to the idea, the definition of God as usually typically defined in the Abrahamic religions, that this deity or this being is the creator of the universe. In Buddhism, there is no such character. Okay, so the two, the words and the image do not jive. So clearly, it is not the word of the Buddha. Again, it is fake. Of this one, there's no source mentioned, but just some words, and they included the Buddha image. That is also a misrepresentation. It is not from the Buddha. And you even find Buddhist websites coming out with posters, such posters with the Buddha Rupa and words which are clearly not from the Buddha, which further confuses the public. This is what I call a disservice to the Buddhist community from a Buddhist website. So using Buddha image indiscriminately causes problems. And what problem it causes? Well, I will dwell in it. The Buddha has waded into this issue about misrepresenting the Buddha, what it causes, what it entails. Now here we find 4 posters which have been labeled fake, and analysis have been done by certain other individuals, not myself, who have actually weighed into the analysis of this. Some of these are paraphrasing, some are what they call composed by individuals who want to market these quotes further. Since they are not known to the general public, so they put the word Buddha, which is more well known. So they try to have further mileage for these kinds of posters by incorporating the word Buddha, though these words were not from the Buddha, are not quotes for the Buddha. Hence, these are fake Buddha quotes. And you can see in social media, there are many. I'd like to acknowledge the work by a certain gentleman from the US by using the Buddhist name called Bohi Paksa, who has actually set up a website, fakebuddhaquotes.com, to actually analyze as best as he can or try to trace the source of these fake Buddha quotes. So here he says, this is a nice quote, referring to the quote above, but every time I saw it being shared in social media or quoted in blogs, it rang an alarm bell. Not because of the sentiment is untrue, nor because the language was of the kind that the Buddha wouldn't have used, but simply because in many years of reading the Pali Canon and various Mahayana sutras, I've never seen it in a primary source, nor had I seen it come with a scriptural citation. Now, what does this Bohi Paksa mean by primary source, scriptural citation? It means literally what I showed you in the earlier posters. I show you a quote from the Buddha, I name the sutta, where it is found. I give you the coding that indicates which Nikaya in the Sutta Pitaka it comes from, which particular book, which sutta number, which you can use to key into your favorite search engine, and you can read the whole sutta from the front to the back, not just the excerpt I was showing. So primary source and scriptural citation is very important. So much so that I have seen so many sharings of fake Buddha quotes or quotes that do not have primary source and scriptural citation, that I have regarded posters that have a Buddha Rupa or claim that is said by the Buddha right at the bottom without a scriptural citation. I have come to the conclusion that it's no longer a case of innocent until proven guilty, but I've come to the reverse. It is guilty until proven that it is actually the word of the Buddha. That is how frequent fake Buddha cults have infiltrated our social media. Okay. And what did the Buddha teach? Well, in short, this Dhammapada verse 183, incidentally found in the Kuddaka Nikaya in the Tipitaka, talks about Sabba papasa akaranang kusalasa upasampada sachita paridapanang etang buddhana sasana, meaning that we should avoid all evil to do good, to purify our minds. This is the teaching of the Buddhas. This 4-line stanza clearly summarizes the teachings of the Buddhas. And again, at the bottom, as I quoted, Dhammapada verse 183, I provide the primary source, the scriptural citation. So continuing with the commentary by Bohi Paksa, and with a little searching, I was able to locate the original in a passage known as the 3 Virtues of Food, which is a fragment of a letter written by Nichiren, possibly in the year 1278. If one gives food to others, one will improve one's own lot. Just as, for example, if one lights a fire for others, one will brighten one's own way. So this is what Nichiren wrote in that particular article. Again, this isn't to question the spiritual validity of the quote. I just want to straighten out false attributions. And this particular emphasis is very important. Very often people come to me, not just to Bohi Paksa, these arguments say that, oh, that quotation with the Buddha Rupa there, even though there's no scriptural citation, no primary source indication, but it is very spiritual, so it should be okay. But here, as together with Bohi Paksa, I mentioned the common sentiment. This isn't to question the spiritual validity. There are things that the Buddha may not have said in the suttas, but nevertheless, it's very spiritual, it is very wise. But we are not questioning the wiseness or the spiritual validity of the quote. We want to say that it is not from the Buddha. So straightening out false attributions is very important. And continuing at the bottom paragraph, the most common use of a lamb metaphor in the Pali Canon is not actually something said by the Buddha, but something said to the Buddha by many who had come to talk with him. Having learned from the exchanges, these learners would exclaim in a stock phrase, to thus end with this: magnificent Lord, magnificent, just as if he were to place upright what was overturned, to reveal what was hidden, to show the way to one who was lost, or to carry a lamp into the dark so that those with eyes could see forms. In the same way has the Blessed One, through many lines of reasoning, made the Dharma clear. So this is found as an ending in many, many suttas, as Bodhipakkha correctly has mentioned. And even this, what we call Happy Vesak Day wish from a political party, well, that says, no matter how hard the past, you can always begin again, and claiming that it is from Lord Buddha. Clearly, this is another fake Buddha quote. Obviously, the person who prepared this does not know better. And this quote is actually by Jack Confield. Jack's little book, Buddha's Little Instruction Book, is one of the major sources of fake Buddha quotes, presumably because people get confused by the title and think that it's a book of actual quotes from the Buddha. And they are everywhere, as I mentioned, in Facebook, in memes, quote sites, blog articles, even in published books. Hallmark-style fake Buddha quotes abound. And how do fake Buddha quotes arise? Bodhipakkha weighs into the origins of these fake Buddha quotes. There are simple errors of attribution. It could be simple. People assume with wrong understanding when they read a certain book. They thought it was on the Buddha, as in the earlier page from Jack Confield's book. So continuing, where someone else's words have somehow been ascribed to the Buddha. Then there is a case whereby there are lost in translation quotes, where someone has creatively rendered the Buddha's words into a new, improved version. They may express their own view of spirituality, but are so far from the original meaning, they are essentially fake. That's why translating the Buddha word into, say, English or into Chinese is already fraught with a lot of dangers. Okay, command of the ancient language is an important factor. But when you try to render it in new, improved version, as mentioned, very often the key message, the key points that the Buddha was trying to express in that original quote was lost or misrepresented. And what the Bodhipakkha says, so far from the original meaning that they are essentially fake. So be careful. And sometimes people just make up a spiritual sounding quote and stick the Buddha on the end. But it can be hard to tell. People want to have fame in terms of what they mention, but of course they do not put their own names, because who the hell is Ananda Fong if I were to write such a quote? But the Buddha is definitely more well known. So the rule of thumb for our evaluation is that if you can't find a quote in the scriptures, any scriptures, including those of the Mahayana traditions, you should regard it as fake. If there's no evidence of him saying something, then we should not claim he did. People often tell me that the Buddha was too spiritual to be bothered about being misquoted. I also get that too. When I point out certain things to people who simply share on social media fake Buddha quotes in posters and so on. But the key point here, as Bodhipakkha says, the reality is that scriptures are full of stories in which the Buddha sets some seeker straight about what he said, and where he condemns those who have misquoted him. So Buddha has actually scolded Buddhist monks who have misrepresented his teaching because they didn't understand his teachings and taught other people, and the Buddha called this monk to his presence and counter-checked whether this monk or this person has said thus and corrected his understanding. And this is the Buddha's take on misquoting the Buddha. And in this particular sutta, Abhasita Sutta, found in the Anguttara Nikaya, Book of 2, Sutta number 23, as indicated by the red arrow at the bottom of the screen. So I call this slandering or misrepresenting the Buddha. And this extract says, mendicants or monks, these two misrepresent the Buddha. What two? One who explains what was not spoken by the realized one as spoken by him, and one who explains what was spoken by the realized one or the Buddha as not spoken by him. These two misrepresent the Buddha. And at the bottom, these two don't misrepresent the realized one. What two? One who explains what was not spoken by the Buddha as not spoken by him, and one who explained what was spoken by the Buddha as spoken by him. These two don't misrepresent the Buddha. So clearly, in this particular sutta, the Buddha had very direct communication as to fake quotes rendered about his teachings and so on. And continuing, one objection, Bodhipaksa says, one objection I often hear to my investigation of suspicious quotes is that it's the meaning and spirit of a quote that are important, not who said it. And it's true that just because a quote is fake doesn't mean that it's wrong or spiritually invalid. Some fake quotes are so Buddhist that I wish the Buddha had actually said them. So what's the problem? Well, we come back to the definition of fake, with meaning it is not real, not true, not genuine. It is counterfeit. That means not by the person who said it. And what is a quote? The quote is to repeat something written or said by another person exactly. So the problem is that to attribute a quote to the Buddha is to make a claim about the fact that this is something the Buddha said. A quote made in line with the Buddha's teaching and may even be inspiring and spiritually useful, but surely it's better to get our facts straight. So after all, didn't the Buddha have a few things to say about truthful speech? So you can check out the Tipitaka for many suttas where the Buddha taught the importance of speech, not just any kind of speech, but truthful speech. So if the statement was very spiritual, well, and it's not said by the Buddha, leave the Buddha out of it. Whoever said that, put that person's name. So how does one verify potential fake Buddha quotes? Well, you can visit Bodhipaksa's website, fakebuddhaquotes.com. So although many of the common fake quotes can be found in this website, some may not have come to Bodhipaksa's attention. You may forward a suspicious quote to him for his analysis. So the question now is, do you share or forward as received? Many people do not bother, are too lazy to verify a certain quote in a poster and so on. So they write forward as received, as if they can wash their hands of that responsibility. But as far as I'm concerned, they are responsible for propagating fake quotes, even if they write shared as received. Or do you share and forward only when you are certain? So if you are uncertain, we are not sure, and you're not bothered or do not have the time to verify if it is a Buddha quote, then let it stop with you. Do not forward, do not share. So we do not want to propagate all these fake Buddha quotes. And one clear identifier of a fake Buddha quote, as I mentioned earlier, when you put the name, they say something at the bottom, dash Gautama Buddha or Buddha. That is a sure sign that is, from my experience, sure sign that is almost always a fake Buddha quote. Legitimate quotes are proud to say which sutta and which Nikaya it comes from. Now, in the next few slides, I like to bring you to a particular sutta called the Saddhamma Patirupaka Sutta. The sutta's name is at the bottom of the page with the red arrow pointing, from the Samyutta Nikaya, chapter number 16, sutta number 30. And the Buddha had this to say in a conversation with Mahakassapa, Venerable Mahakassapa, a counterfeit of the true Dharma. And Mahakassapa was relating to the Buddha that with time, why are there so many training rules? So, and the Buddha responded, that's how it is, Kasyapa. When sentient beings are in decline and the true teaching is disappearing, there are more training rules and fewer enlightened mendicants. The true teaching doesn't disappear as long the counterfeit of true teaching hasn't appeared in the world. But when the counterfeit of the true teaching appears in the world, then the true teaching disappears. So clearly from this particular statement, it clearly shows that those who persist in forwarding fake Buddha quotes, they are encouraging the decline of the true Dharma, the decline, the demise, the disappearance of the Buddha Sasana. And the Buddha continues in this sutta. It's like true gold, which doesn't disappear as long as counterfeit gold hasn't appeared in the world. But when counterfeit gold appears in the world, then real gold disappears. In the same way, the true teaching doesn't disappear as long as the counterfeit of the true teaching hasn't appeared in the world. But when the counterfeit of the true teaching appears in the world, then the true teaching disappears. And clearly, from our experience, the counterfeit of the true teaching has appeared in this world. And the true teaching is starting to disappear. Why? People simply forward as received. So they are clearly contributing to the disappearance of the Buddha Sasana. It's not the elements of earth, water, fire, or air that make the true teaching disappear. Rather, it's the foolish people who make it right, who appear right here, that make the true teaching disappear. The true teaching doesn't disappear like a ship that sinks all at once. So clearly, the Buddha designation of people who simply forward fake Buddha quotes as foolish people, even though they write forwarded as received. So please do not forward, lest you want to be labeled foolish and contributing to the demise of the true Dharma, to the demise of the Buddha Sasana. And the sutta continues. There are 5 detrimental things that lead to the decline and the disappearance of the true teaching. What 5? It's when monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen lack respect and reverence for the teacher, in this case the Buddha, the teaching, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, the training, the training rules, and concentration. These 5 detrimental things lead to the decline and disappearance of the true teaching. And next page, we have the list of 5 leading to the persistence and endurance of the true teaching. And what 5? Is when monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen maintain respect and reverence for the teacher, for the teaching, for the Sangha, for the training, and for concentration or meditation. These 5 things lead to the continuation, persistence, and enduring of the true teaching. So in the end, we have to ask ourselves the key question. Are you spreading fake Buddha quotes? Or are you sharing and forwarding only when you are certain that these are the words of the Buddha as recorded in the Tipitaka? So we have to ask ourselves this question very importantly. And hopefully, with this sharing, that there will be a decrease and hopefully a stopping of this sharing of fake Buddha quotes within the Buddhist community by Buddhists. And often I mention this quote and that quote from the Tipitaka. What is this Tipitaka? Well, Tipitaka essentially means the 3 baskets. T is 3, Pitaka means baskets. So the Buddhist teachings are contained in the 3 baskets, comprising the Vinaya Pitaka, the Sutta Pitaka, and the Abhidharma Pitaka. And originally it has been recorded in the language of the Buddhist text, which is typically called Pali. Okay, of course, there have been many translations into English, Chinese, into what they call Tibetan, and many other languages, and available online as well as in good Buddhist libraries. And SJPA definitely has a what they call a good Buddhist library at the Vihara. So, as a Buddhist, we need to know the Buddha word, or at the very least, how to check it out for ourselves. So, how does one come to know the Buddha word? That's the next obvious question. Well, clearly, there's insufficient time to cover this, and therefore, there will be a part 2 session of this particular the Buddha's teaching, fake or scriptural, in the later date, where I will go through or take you through ways in which we can check out what is true Buddha quotes and so on, and to learn from the Dharma. Okay. So with this, the end of this morning sharing. Sat Dhammo Cirang Titatu. May the good doctrine long endure. Sabbe Satta Sukhi Hontu. May all beings be happy. Back to you, Brother Jim.
Thank you, Brother Ananda. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you so much for the very excellent, insightful, and mentally stimulating talk this morning that stimulate our mind to be more discerning, to be able to discern what we learn, whether they are fake or whether they are genuine, and not to be a party to disinformation of the Dharma by forwarding fake Buddha quotes and thereby helping to contribute to the decline of the true Dharma. Thank you, Brother Anafong. Brothers and sisters in the Dharma, we shall now proceed with the Q&A. Is there any questions you'd like to ask Brother Ananda? The first question comes from Brother Chan from KCBA. Is there any Buddhist regulatory council to monitor and to prevent those fake and distorted Buddhist quotes text in Malaysia and Brother Ananda, I think by extension in the world?
Unfortunately, okay, thank you for the question. This is a very good question. Unfortunately, there are no Buddhist authorities. That means as in like TBCM or SJBA going around policing all the quotes that are shared in social media. There are just none. It is left to the individual Buddhists to actually what they call monitor. And the first thing you can do is that there are a lot of fake quotes circulating in secular society, but when they reach the Buddhist community, say the SJBA, what they call WhatsApp group or whatever, please make sure if you want to share it, you think the quote is very spiritual, make sure that it is a Buddhist quote, a quote from the Buddha. If you're not sure, do not share. But on the other hand, but you feel that the message there is very, very spiritual, you can perhaps ask a fellow, maybe whom you think who is more knowledgeable, to help to verify whether it is a true Buddha quote or not before you share it. So you go through the extra step. But when you are not sure, please do not share. So back to the question, unfortunately, there is no regulatory council in Malaysia or anywhere in the world that does this. But people like the Bui Baksa has tried his best. He's even paid money and set up this website to help us to verify quotes and so on. But we can do our part. When we are not sure, we do not share and propagate all this and perpetuate this fake Buddha quote. Let the message come to you, let it die there. Of course, those who are more knowledgeable, you know where to look to verify, and you found out that whatever you have received from your friends from another group are fake. You can always, what I do is, I take this poster, I edit it, I put the chalk fake and send it back to the person who sent to me or to the group that sent to me. And then it starts the conversation. Why do I say it is fake? Then I will tell them that it is not found in any of the scriptures. And the true citation should be this aspect of the Dharma and so on. So this sparks a conversation for those who want to be involved with this and who knows how to check. So I send back the same poster with the chalk fake to the person who has posted in the group, much to their anger, of course. Now.
Okay,
next
thank you
question.
for your advice, yeah, Brother Ananta. Any other question? From WH Chan, I think the same person, maybe a follow-up question. Is there any regulatory body for monks when they deliver the teaching? As sometimes we see they worship the teachings of their monks using Buddhist labels.
Okay, regulatory bodies for monks. Okay, there are many lineages of monastics. Some from the Thai tradition, and within the Thai Sangha, there are different lineages also. Each of the lineages will regulate their monks appropriately. And in Thailand, there are already a few lineages. In Myanmar, I'm sure there are a few. In Sri Lanka, there are a few. So there are so many lineages. There's no such thing as one monastic regulatory agency that regulate them. Okay, so unfortunately, so there's this is the state in which we are in. Okay, but the Buddha has something to say about worshipping the teachings of other monks, especially in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, and probably there are other suttas, where the Buddha gave advice to those present before him that even if the monastic in front of you delivering a Dhamma teaching, okay, those are monks with many vasas. That means very senior monks, 30 vasas, and even more, who are generally well regarded as very knowledgeable. The Buddha gives this warning that we should not take the advice of these monks, even these senior monks, just like that. That we ourselves must do some investigation. Remember, the quality of the Dhamma is inviting investigation. Ehi pasiko. So the Buddha advises that we should do investigation as to what this learned and senior monk has advised us. Are they part of the teachers, the Buddha's teaching, or just this venerable's opinion? Okay, that is a very important aspect. And the Buddha advises that we should take this advice provisionally, as in the talk, and compare it with what has been recorded and generally accepted as in this case, the Tipitaka. When after examination, we find that these two are what they call are compatible. That means they are telling the same story. Then we can then accept the teachings and then practice the teachings. But the problem with the majority of us, we simply listen and assume it is correct, and therefore that's when the trouble starts. That we get misinformation. Not that the monk is spreading disinformation, but sometimes he has wrong understanding, and he inevitably shared the wrong aspect of the Dhamma, the wrong understanding of the Dhamma. And therefore, even the Buddha has foreseen this and mentioned in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. Now I'm quoting your source. Please check the source for what the Buddha said regarding this aspect. Even monks who are very senior, many vasas, that we should counter-check whatever they say against the Tipitaka. And if it's true, then accept it. If it's not, put it one side. Okay?
Yeah, thank you. I think all of us need to be more discerning, listening to all those talks and decide which is the real or which is the fake teaching. We go for next question from Jade Mac. Brother Ananda, is Bodhipaksa a reliable check for Buddhist codes?
Well, Bodhipaksa is okay. I also, and like any other speaker, I do not trust 100%. And he has certain, what I call, knowledges which I do not have the experience from. Like, for instance, he's a Westerner. He's educated in the Western philosophies. When he talks about Aris quotes, or this quote is similar to an idea by Aristotle and some of those Western philosophers, I cannot vouch for whether his comments about the verse is similar to the teaching of Aristotle and Plato and all those kind of things, because I don't have that kind of expertise. But whenever he touches on he mentions that, oh, this quote is fake because the Buddha said this, and Bodhisattva is very aware, very cognizant of this aspect, and he quotes the sutta and gives you a URL, a soft link where you can actually click on the link and go to the sutta itself. So he knows that you don't trust him, and you can go and verify what he says, which I do. I verify what he says on whatever I can verify within the Buddhist world. But whenever he touches Western philosophy, I'm not an expert in that area, so I cannot verify that portion, okay, which is not important to me. I only want to verify the Buddhist aspect. And Bodhisattva takes the trouble to actually explain the sutta and refer you to the sutta. That's what is important. So we don't have to say that Bodhisattva is reliable. Each time he does analysis, please counter-check him also. Then we ourselves develop the habit of counter-checking everybody else, including me. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Any other question? Brother Anafong, we listen to many Dharma talks quoting the Buddha, but no scriptural references were mentioned. How do we know what were quoted as the Buddha teachings are fake or genuine?
Okay, that's a very, very pertinent question. Occasionally, when I attend a talk given, especially by a monastic, I have even at the end of the talk, of course, during the talk, I don't want to raise a hand and interrupt the flow of the Dharma talk. At the end of the session, I might actually angkat tangan, raise a hand, and ask the Bante, hey, Bante, you have quoted this and that from as something said by the Buddha. Do you have the names of the sutta and so on? So I actually have asked venerables, very learned venerables, and some of these venerables are able to identify the suttas, which I record. Then I will go back and do some more homework to familiarize myself. That means to learn further from the sutta, because he only quote certain excerpts, like what I did in the posters, certain excerpts. I didn't give you the whole sutta. And at the same time, there are people who in what they call, maybe in social media, it may not be a talk, but they mention certain what they call stock phrases, certain terms. So what search engines, internet search engines have the advantage that we can use is we can literally copy verbatim some of these so-called quotes used in the talks or in articles, and throw it into a search engine and try to find out whether it is from any particular part of the Tipitaka. So if you have done a lot of searches like myself, using, in my case, I use a lot of Google search. Google also tracks my, what they call, is familiar with what I want. That means they track your search locations, what websites you like to go to, and so on. So they know roughly what I want, and they will give you a range of sources. If these stock phrases with no sutta name, no indication, are found in any other scriptural translations available on the internet, it will show up in the search results. And the search results may indicate that it's either a fake quote, it might point to Bodhisattva's analysis, it might show up as actually from a sutta, maybe a translation by Tanisoro Bhikkhu, Bhikkhu Bodhi, Bhikkhu Analayo, and so on, or found in this book, and so on. So from there, I can further my analysis of that. So you can actually use this search engine method without the sutta name, without the indication of which Nikaya, but just certain phrases, short phrases. So we have to play around with the what they call open and close inverted commas. Search engines use a certain logic, the AND or the OR logic system, to help it to search its massive database as to where is this from. So I actually try to use as much of that to identify which sutta. And very often, if I find that it is actually a sutta, then which I have not come across, then it becomes a learning point for me. I sadhu to the person who have shared this with me. Then I come across this sutta, although the person didn't mention the sutta, but now I know the sutta. And if the message, the advice given there is relevant, I might, quite often, I incorporate this into my Dharma sharings. And this particular sharing this morning, I've shared it a few times with other centers, but without the Saddhamma Patirupaka Sutta. It was actually thanks to identification of this sutta at the invitation of another Buddhist society who identified this sutta and asked me to talk about this sutta. Then only I came across this sutta. And it was very relevant to today's topic on fake quotes and whether the true Dharma can persist or not. So I incorporated it. So today's version is the latest along the learning journey. So as I learn more, I will incorporate the newer sources and so on. That's how. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Brother Ananta. Very good answer and also very excellent information. We go for the next question. Any other questions? Also from Crank and Coast, L.Y. Teo. Is it true that Abhidhamma is not the Buddha's teaching? Rather, it is just commentaries from the seniors.
Okay. The aspect of the Abhidhamma Pitaka is controversial. I'm not an expert in Abhidhamma, but just to say that at least during the first council and the second council, or the first Sanghayana and the second Sanghayana, the first one at the Satipatthana, rather the caves outside of Rajagaha, and 100 years later at Patna, Pataliputra area, where they had the second council. What was recited or rehearsed was not even divided into the three Tipitaka. So there was no such thing as the Tipitaka. The Tipitaka only was arranged in the Tipitaka format at the third council. That means around King Asoka's time, 270 over years after the Buddha passed away. So first council and second council, there was no Vinaya Pitaka, Sutta Pitaka, and Abhidhamma Pitaka. But what they had was Dhamma and Vinaya. So Vinaya was recited by Venerable Upali, and the Dhamma was recalled by Venerable Ananda. So back to the issue, whether the Abhidhamma was the Buddha's teaching or not, I will refer you to certain commentaries by Bhikkhu Analayo, and maybe closer to home, Venerable Agachita has also have a talk article as well as audio talk available that you can actually search for by going to SBS website and hear what he says, his take on the Abhidhamma, because Bhante Agachita is well learned, especially in Pali, and he has direct access. Whereas myself, I do not read Pali very well, in fact, very poorly. I have to rely on English translation. But Bhante Agachita and Bhikkhu Analayo reads Pali directly. Okay, and he can give a better take on this particular question as to whether Abhidhamma is or is not the Buddha's teaching. Personally, I spend most of my time on the Sutta Pitaka. Sutta Pitaka is so vast that I almost have insufficient time to start on the Abhidhamma Pitaka. That is how vast the Buddha has been teaching. See, after all, he has been teaching for 45 years, so that's a lot of teachings. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I hope LYTO is satisfied with the answer. And to further probe into this question, we go for the next question. Is it bad karma to create fake Buddha quotes, even though the intention is to inspire others to avoid evil and to do good? Even though the intention is good.
Okay, this question itself provides you the answer. The way you phrase the question already provides you. First of all, you mentioned the word create fake Buddha quotes. That means that when you create it, you already know it is not what the Buddha said. Okay, and then when you want to share it to inspire others to avoid evil, how can that be? You are you are a contradiction in yourself. Why? You are creating fake quotes. You are lying. If you are lying and you tell people, don't lie, that doesn't make sense. Liars encourage others to lie. So when you issue out these fake Buddha quotes, you are showing how people can lie, like him, by this example of sharing fake Buddha quotes. So the key issue is that there are other people who create fake Buddha quotes because they want to see their artistic creation being popularized in social media, and they slap the word this quote from the Buddha, put dash the Buddha at the bottom. So they have nice graphics and all those kind of things. So of course they did not put their name, otherwise they will get scolded. So they put the Buddha, so everybody who doesn't check will share this ever widely, and this person get a kick that, oh, my poster is all over the place, but nobody else knows except the creator of that poster. So you have actually answered your own question, that if you were to create fake Buddha quotes, you cannot be inspiring others to avoid evil because you are spreading evil. Okay, so the Buddha clearly said that intention creates karma. So intention is very important, but intention can also be motivated, or rather inspired by ignorance. So you need to have wise intention. So what is wise? If you say it is, I want to find out about Buddha quotes. The first question is, do you know any Buddha quotes, or where to find them? If the answer is I do not know, then I cannot share the Buddha quotes with anybody because I do not know where to get them in the first place. So the first thing is you must learn about the Dharma and find out where, how are Buddhist scriptural teachings preserved. So you have to go through an education process, educate yourself, find out where to find Buddha quotes, what the suttas and so on, and then accept if you find certain suttas are very inspiring, certain passages are inspiring, then you extract it, put it into a poster, use your artistic skill to decorate it nicely, and then to do justice to it, attribute it back to the Buddha by not saying the Buddha, but giving the sutta and the reference quote. Then you are doing justice. Then you are inspiring others to do good like what you have done. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Brother Fong, for a very excellent advice. Is there any other question? If there's no other questions, once again, thank you, Brother Fong, for the very insightful, very profound and excellent and mentally stimulating Dharma talk this morning, to help us to have a more discerning mind in our spiritual quest in learning, and also to practice the Dharma. Thank you so much. On behalf of our devotees, we express our heartfelt thanks and gratitude to you, Brother Fong. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Brothers and sisters in the Dharma, this morning, as we participate in the Sunday Buddha Puja and also listen to the Dharma, we accumulated a lot of good merits. Let us dedicate this merits to all sentient beings. Let us dedicate this merits to those who suffer during this COVID-19 pandemic and all other forms of suffering. May they be free from harm and danger and be well and happy. Let us share this merits for all sentient beings. Imang no punya pagang mata pitu nancha acharya nancha sapa satanancha sapa mitanancha sapa nyatinancha sapa petanancha sapa devatanancha pajema. Imang no punya pagang sapa satanang tema sape satta sukita hontu. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu สุขิตาหนตุญาตายโยอิตังเมญาตินังโหตุสุขิตาหนตุญาตายโยอิมินาปุญญากาเมนะมาเมปาลาสมากามโมสัตตังสมากามโมโหตุยาวานิปานะปฏิยาอิตังเมปุญญังอาสวะคายาวะหังโหตุอิตังเมปุญญังนิบานัสสะปัจฉายโยโหตุสาธุสาธุสาธุ Brothers and sisters in the Dharma, before we conclude this Buddha Puja, let us pay homage to the Triple Gem. Buddhang Pujemi, Dhammang Pujemi, Sanghang Pujemi. Brothers and sisters in Dharma, thank you very much and Mahasadu for your attendance. Thank you for all your feedback, your comments and support and likes. Once again, thank you and Mahasadu to Brother Ananda Fong. We have come to the end of this 76th online Sunday Buddha Puja service. We shall resume next Sunday on the 16th of January. Please refer to SJBF Facebook or your respective society's Facebook for more information. May you and your family be well, be safe, and be happy. Sukhi hontu, sape satta, pawantu sukhi tata. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Bahong sahan semabhinim mitesayudantang ngirimi kelang udita Sasene marang Dana di Dhamma vidina Jita